Hi there, this is Justin Krane, Certified Financial Planner Professional and founder of Krane Financial Solutions. Welcome to Money You Got This. So how can you really live? How? By uniting your business money, your personal money with your life and your business. Word up.
Krane Financial is an SEC-registered investment advisor. However, such registration does not imply a certain level of skill or training, and no inference to the contrary should be made. A copy of our current written disclosure statement discussing our advisory services and fees is available upon request. Information contained herein is for informational and illustrative purposes only, and general in nature. It should not be considered specific financial planning or investment advice, or a recommendation to buy or sell any type of securities or other investment products.
What's up, everybody? This is Justin Krane, host of the show, Money You Got This. Super psyched that you're here for me here with us today. This show is brought to you by Krane Financial Solutions. I'm Justin Krane. I'm your host. I'm a certified financial planner, professional, and fractional CFO for business owners. I am also the author of the book, Money You Got This. I'm psyched you're listening to the show. I want to give you this free report, 3 things multimillionaires do to grow their wealth. Just go to coolmoneyshow.com to grab it. That's coolmoneyshow.com to grab it. Thanks. And today I have a friend of mine, someone who I've tried to get forever. I finally cornered her into a corner of her own office. Her name is Dr. Tanya Reamer Altmann. Tanya, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Great. So guys, let me tell you a little bit about Tanya, just so you know. So working mom, UCLA trained pediatrician. She's written 72 books. She's been on 4 million TV shows. Best-selling author, network TV, NBC Today, American Academy of Pediatrics spokesperson, approved by the National Physician Organization to communicate complicated medical issues to making it really, really easily and understandable, especially for you parents. Like I said, she's wrote a lot of books, been on TV, and I think everyone is going to learn a lot from Dr. T today. I'm calling you Dr. T for a minute.
Okay.
So it's really, really good to have you here. And I want to just dive in and ask you the first question. How do you keep it all together?
Well, I don't always keep it all together. I have a great team of people around me, which I think, is what's important for anyone who, works a lot and like to help people and is successful. So I have an amazing husband who's very supportive. I have 3 kids who are pretty good, although, they're kids and they still need my time. In my own practice, I have an office manager and a nurse who are fabulous. And it took me a while to find the right people, which is something we can also talk about later, is you have to find the right people and you have to treat them and pay them well so that way they can stay with you. And I really just try to balance and manage everything. 4 years ago, I moved my office from Westlake Village, which was 20 minutes from my house, to Calabasas, a mile from my house. So because my house, my office, and my kids' school are all within a mile of each other, it really makes my life so much easier. And with technology, so I can be picking my kids up from school and talking to a parent about their sick child on the phone, and then I can, run and do whatever else I need to do or come back to the office and see them. And it really allows me that flexibility to sort of always be available for everyone.
So you've made some intentional decisions on how to set up your own version of work-life balance, hiring the right people that fit for you, moving 19 minutes closer to your house. I think there's something to be said about that. What would you say to people that they know they need to do something different about being intentional in their business, whether it's their staff or just their overall work environment? How do you get someone to make a change so that they can set themselves up for better success if they're struggling with it?
Yeah. It's really hard to make a change. I feel like we all get so comfortable in our routine, and sometimes it can seem easier to just stick with the monotony of what you're doing, even though you feel like there's a different or better way to go about it. And so it sometimes takes a sort of a specific person or a good friend or partner who kind of pushes you and says, you can do this, you have a great idea, and you can make it happen. But it takes time, it doesn't happen overnight. So you have to make sure that you think about it, that you plan it out. You might need to save up some reserve because it can take a while to build up your new business. And you always have to have a plan B. And my college roommate went to Harvard Business School. And when I told her what I was going to do 4 years ago, she said, "What's your plan B, Tanya?" And I said, I got to think about it. And then I came up with my plan B. And she's like, okay, because you have a plan B now, you can go for it.
Let's talk about your plan A, right?
Okay.
So you went from being, I think, a pediatrician into a concierge type of a practice.
Yes. So I spent 16 years in a very busy, amazing pediatric practice in Westlake Village where we took all insurances and we were extremely busy. I had thousands of patients. We had a great team of 7 doctors. We would take turns with everything. But I felt like I was letting families down because every family wanted 10 more minutes with me and they wanted to be able to reach me on the weekend and they wanted to be able to FaceTime with me. And I would feel guilty when they had to go to urgent care or when I didn't have time to talk to that, GI or lung specialist they saw at UCLA yesterday and know exactly what the plan was. And it took a while, to sort of figure out like there is a market for this. Some families don't mind going out of insurance and paying a little bit. And by the way, my prices are very reasonable. They're not that much to have this higher or extra level of care, which I think is really needed because insurance and healthcare in the United States is so fragmented nowadays. And you can really get lost in the system if you don't have somebody advocating for you. And that's basically what I do for my families.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, okay, so you have this concept. Do you just cold turkey do it? Like you pick a date, you just shut down, and then you just turn over into concierge? Did you transition? How'd you do it?
So what I did was I happened to get pregnant with a 3rd baby.
Oh.
And
you have like 17 kids or something?
Exactly, all boys, yes. Now I have 3 boys. They are 14, 12, and 4.5. So the 3rd was a little bit of, a little bit of a surprise. And also it was another boy. And so I was a little bit like, that sort of hit me really hard that like I wasn't going to have a daughter. And, that kind of made me rethink everything that I was doing and how I could maybe do it better. And I took that time to sort of take a step back from the group that I was a partner in and decided to take some time off and figure out what I wanted to do. And, because I like to always do things and I'm not very good at taking time off and sitting at home, what I thought was going to be a 6 to 12 month maternity leave, really was like 3 or 4 months. And then I was ready to sort of dive back into something else.
I love it. Okay. So did you just stop being a pediatrician and you just did concierge right away? Is that pretty much?
So I'm still a pediatrician. So, there's different models of medicine now in our country.
Yeah.
There's your standard insurance-based practices. And from those, there's like PPOs, HMOs, IPOs, like all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of doctors that are now realizing that they can actually provide a different level of care for patients that want it by either going with a strict cash pay, like you walk in, you pay for the visits when you need them, or a membership subscription. Some people call that DPC, direct primary care. And some also call it concierge. And really concierge to me just means like a more personal level of care. Some concierge doctors charge a yearly fee that includes everything. Some still charge for visits when you come in. And so when people say to me, how do you describe your practice? I usually say, well, it's a cash pay concierge practice. I'm out of network, but we give you all the paperwork to submit to your insurance. If there's things that we can use your insurance for, we will try to help you with that, such as labs, vaccines, seeing specialists. But because of that, we're taking out that 3rd party so that way I can spend that full hour with you. And because I only have a few hundred patients instead of a few thousand, I can be available for you all the time.
Okay, let me make sure I understand this because this is really important for everyone to understand. You left the normal standard of care, PPO-ish, all that stuff, Kaiser, whatever it is. Now you're going to whether it's either cash pay or concierge, and you're said, I'm not dealing with insurance.
Right.
You can deal with insurance on your own. I'm going to provide a higher level of care. We're going to have our pricing, which gives you more pricing and profitability power, if you will, right?
Yes.
And then you're giving your patient or parents, if you will, the choice to either go full concierge or pay as you go?
Exactly. We have 3 levels of plans and they're all very transparent. So like right now, when you go to an insurance-based doctor, you have no idea what it costs and what they're billing their insurance.
Yeah.
So I have plenty of patients that come in to see me and say, wow, your prices are so much less than my regular doctor because they happened to stop taking my insurance for a few months and I got the bill for the full $350 illness visit that they billed the insurance and you only charge $175 for that. Wow. And I said, well, I don't have to mark up my prices because I'm not trying to make sure that I get a 3rd back from the insurance.
Yeah.
So it really depends. I mean, I can't speak for all doctors that do this and all, insurances, but I feel that by often, cutting out that third party, it can help. And you'll notice that if you go to the hospital, for example, to get like a colonoscopy or a procedure, sometimes they'll say to you, do you want us to bill your insurance, or do you want to pay this cash price right now, which is probably a lot less than if we bill your insurance and they don't cover it and you get a bill later and you have to decide.
Yeah.
And so this way, at least there's no last minute decisions. It's all there. Everybody knows.
Okay. I want to go deeper to this because it's such a big thing that I love talking about, and I'm curious to get your background on it. It has to do with the psychology of pricing and communication when you're dealing with people in business. Yeah. A confused mind doesn't buy. So insurance is like a vortex, it's very hard. But as you're giving these parents these three pricing options, how are you dealing with simplicity and clarity around delivering what you're offering and making sure that your people are actually understanding it so that they can be informed and actually, if it's a good fit, sign up and be a patient of yours?
Yes. So I started off.
Do you do this, or do you have your assistants do this?
Well, both. So because it's a very small personal office, I answer the phone often myself. During lunch today, my nurse and office manager were at lunch. I answer the phone and talk to two potential new patients.
Got it.
So it definitely is a family approach. When I opened up, I had one plan. There was a small yearly fee per family, and you paid for the illness visits and physicals when you came in. And the yearly fee covered phone calls and emails and longer visits and being able to talk to specialists. Like if I send a patient to a therapist, I'm going to go meet with that therapist and make sure they're the right fit and that we're in constant communication about the patient. But then parents started asking for more. So some parents wanted to be able to FaceTime and text. They wanted to be able to pay one fee for the whole year and not have to worry about how many times they came in. And some said, you know what? We only want to come in for a consultation once in a while. We don't want to call you after hours. And that's how I ended up with the three plans. And my office staff is very good at explaining them to people. Sometimes it can be very confusing, but we have paperwork where it's all laid out so you'll never be surprised with any cost. And the other thing I wanted to mention when you talked about the psychology, people often say to me, wow, now that people are paying you cash, don't they, abuse you and like call you on the weekends and email you all the time? I have to say that my patients are a lot more respectful because when people are paying you, they actually respect you more and they really value your time. So with insurance, people would call about anything all day long, 24/7, because this is what their insurance is paying for, right? You better be available for them. But now the parents will call and be like, I'm so sorry to bother you. Can I ask you this quick question? I didn't want to wait until morning. And I'm honest with my families too. When they call me on a Saturday and I'm at my son's soccer game, I'll say, you know what? I can meet you at the office in a half an hour after soccer game, or I'm at Soul Cycle right now. If you don't mind me being sweaty, I'll meet you in 20 minutes. If you want me to take a shower, give me an hour, And I feel like that way it's a family and they're respectful of my time and I'm respectful of their time. Like if they're going out of town tomorrow or they have something important, like that is going to I'm going to factor that into my decision about what we're going to do about their illness because I care the quality of their life when they're on vacation tomorrow. And I'm not just looking at them in those 5 minutes they're in my office.
Yeah, it's a great point that you bring up about, kind of charging what you're worth, valuing your trade and the level of respect that your patients or clients will give you based on what your price is and how you're working with them. So that's great. Well, this is another one that I wanted to talk about. You just moved into this beautiful office and it didn't take you 5 minutes. How did you financially plan for that?
I'm glad my husband's not sitting here.
This is a show about money, life, and business, so I got to hit the money aspect.
So yes. So with my first office 4 years ago, when I opened my own small office, I had saved up some money to that I wasn't sure what I was going to do with it. Was I going to go on vacation? Was I going to use it for kids' college? But I knew that was my money I'd saved up from my speaking and book writing and everything, and I decided I wanted to use it to open my own office. And it was a small office, and it wasn't a lot of money, but it was really what I needed. Then what happened was it turned out that the city decided that they were going to tear my building down after 4 years, which hasn't happened yet. But we thought it was going to happen, and they were basically pushing us all out. Also, at the same time, I was growing and expanding and wanted to hire another doctor. And there were other health experts in the area that were saying, if you move, can we have space in your new place? And I really always love the concept of a wellness center, because I feel like all kids today need help with, nutrition, with sleep, with mental health, with school success. And I really always dreamed of having one place where all these experts could be together under one roof. So I wasn't really planning on, taking out a loan and reinventing that practice and business that I had just opened up 4 years ago, but I sort of had to because I needed to move. And so I decided to jump in, and time will tell, whether or not this is going to be, a good idea or not. I've learned a lot, because now I'm not just managing myself and my, 2 office staff. I have, 8 different businesses here with under the same roof that I am having to provide services for, and they are chipping in on the rent. And it's really, I'm really running a bigger business here, which in some ways I love and is exciting. And in some ways I'm like, why did I do this to myself? So I'll know in a year or two, if this is really a financially a good decision for myself. I think mentally it's a great decision. I love it. We're helping so many families, but I'm not quite sure, how about the profit margin right now. So I need a little more time for that. But because I'm a pediatrician and what I do is help families, I know that I'm helping so many more families now, and I love it.
That's cool. Yeah, because I went onto your site, to just do some pre-show research, and I'm seeing like, wow, she's got all these other people. So were you white labeling them as part of your overall practice, or they owe their own standalone business, or what?
Okay, so since I'm not really a business person, I don't know exactly what, white label means. You'll have to explain that to me. But basically, when I opened my new office was when the laws changed that you couldn't have 1099 employees anymore, right? Yeah. So my dietitian, my lactation consultant, everybody that, prior was seeing patients once in a while for me, we weren't allowed to do that anymore. So I decided everyone needed to rent space, keep it clean, keep it simple, and deal with all their own scheduling, all their own, charging patients. So that's how it is. So really, my pediatric practice is very simple. It's myself. It's my associate that I pay. I have 2 employees, and all of the other experts and specialists, they simply rent space depending on the size of their space and the time they spend in the office.
Okay, so you're not billing. So there's a psychiatrist that rents space, right? Yes. Or a therapist, right? The therapist is not an employee of yours. They're on their own renting space from you. And yes. When a patient goes to see them, that gets referred to them by you, do you get a part of that, or does it simply go to?
No, I don't get a part, and I didn't want a part, because I like to be able to tell parents, I'm referring you to this specialist, and I usually give them a few names. Yeah. And I don't want to feel like I'm getting a kickback, right? I don't want people to think, oh, I'm sending you to my dietitian or my ADHD specialist because they're giving me a percentage. Right. I like to keep it clean.
Do that. Like,
what?
Can you refer and get kickback? I don't even think you can.
Well, but if people are renting space, I could take a percentage. In fact, a lot of them wanted to do that, right? Because they didn't want to commit to a straight amount of rent. When they were doing better, they wanted to pay more to the rent. But I didn't like the idea, again, because I'm like an honest, nice pediatrician, really. I'm not a business person. I didn't like the idea of taking half of what they were getting. I preferred, I just want a flat rent, so I know my rent's being covered. Yeah. It makes it easier for me, and I will refer you. I will help market with you. I will consult with you, and I hope we're all successful. And if you're doing amazing, I hope that when we reevaluate in a few years, you decide that we can increase your rent. But no, I don't take a percentage from the people.
I want to talk about your rent, because it's a very important metric for your business. I'm sure you know that when you write that check.
Yeah.
The fixed cost. And it's nice to know that you have people in your office that are helping pay that fixed cost. Can you talk about the mentality of just paying bills, fixed costs, how that's working for you, knowing that you're getting some support there? Because one of the biggest issues that business owners face when it comes to money is paying these fixed costs, not having a stream of income to pay it or some way to support it. Just talk about that, because I think it's an important
point. It definitely is. And, one thing that I think I failed to mention is when I built out this brand new, beautiful office, it actually cost twice as much as I thought it was going to. And I didn't take that into account when everybody was joining me and saying, hey, when you sign your lease for every month, I need you to contribute to the build out, because for some reason, my understanding of the build out with my landlord and everything, was a little different than it ended up being. And of course, costs always end up being more. And so I ended up with this huge chunk that I had to pay in the build out cost. So initially, even though everyone was paying rent, it still took me a little while to get there, and I was borrowing a little bit more money. And don't forget, I also do, speaking and consulting on the side. So sometimes that is what's coming in to help pay for my business, which, in some ways, as my husband likes to joke and say, why do you still see patients? You'd be doing so much better if you were just speaking and consulting. You're doing all that extra stuff so you can, get your payroll and pay your rent. But the thing is that I love it. I love doing all of it. And I don't want to give up on seeing patients. So it is nice knowing I have a certain amount coming in. And now that I've been open since February, so that's like 7 months, I do feel a little more steady now in that the rent that's coming in is actually the rent, and I don't have a lot of other expenses that I'm still, paying off. Yeah. But the other hard part is sometimes my renters will come to me and say, I didn't do as well this month as I thought. Is it okay if I pay less? And I still have to pay that rent, right? I'm still on the lease. So ultimately I'm responsible. And a lot of that, business management and hand-holding and helping and encouraging, is different than what I thought it was going to be, because these are all professionals, right? Yeah. And so it's definitely a partnership and a family, but I've learned a lot by working with different types of people.
Yeah. I can share that I do speaking and consulting as well. And I know the balance between going and doing that like vertical, but still wanting to work with people and still feel like you're kind of like doing work, like you're actually working with people. There's something to be said about that, which I think is great. I love that. And I'm still in the trenches like you, working with people and still speaking and doing all of that. Can you talk about your media and how you view doing the media? So guys, let me just, Tanya is like everywhere. Like 2 a.m, I'm going to get a snack. Like she's on TV, she's in my pantry. Like you're on Amazon, like you're everywhere. NBC Today, this conference here. So how do you, what's your view of it? Like, do you want to do it for pure branding? Are you doing it to increase your patient base? Are you doing it just because you love it? What's your goal with it? And how has it helped you and hurt you?
Yes, definitely. So, when I started off doing media, it was a long time ago, like 18 years ago, I think, were my first news segments. And if you look back at them, I'm like, oh my God, I was so horrible. But there weren't a lot of doctors that wanted to be on TV back then. So if you would get up at 3 a.m. and do your own hair and makeup, they would put you on. And, and over time practicing, I did get better, but initially I did it as basically a public health service. I wanted to provide health information to people out there and realized that a lot of the health information was not accurate. And I felt like I could really make a difference and reach more people than I could in, a single day at the office. As I started doing it, it did start building my brand. And that's when companies started calling me and saying, hey, we're going to come out with this new baby stroller. We'd love your input. Do you want to consult for us? Do you want to speak for us? And then I realized like, wow, there's other things that I love doing. I love working with this shoe company and doing research on how babies walk and grow and develop and what kind of shoes they need. And, I love to learn. I love to learn new things every day. And so in that way, it does create brand awareness. Do I get new patients from it? It's interesting. I think patients think it's cool I'm on TV. I don't know that many patients come to me because I'm on TV. I mean, I think, in some ways being on TV, sometimes I feel like might even make me less credible because it's like, oh, she's a TV doctor. Because, a lot of TV doctors aren't actually real doctors also. And so I think there's a mix there, but I think, it all goes together into, what I do and my work for the American Academy of Pediatrics, which is a nonprofit organization. I mean, a lot of the news segments I do for them, and that is purely just to get the right information out there to help families around in our country or around the world, keep their families healthy and prevent illness and disease.
It sounds like it's feeding you a little bit, like you enjoy it.
I do. I mean, it is exciting. I remember the first time I was on the Today Show. I flew out there, and I'd been doing media for like 2 years, but just local stuff. And I wasn't, I wasn't really that experienced. And this was before we had smartphones, right? So literally we had phones, but they weren't smartphones. So as I was getting on the airplane, the Today Show producer called me, and I opened my flip phone, and she said, "We still want you to get on that plane and come out tomorrow, but we want to change the topic."
Yeah, they do.
And I was like, okay. And then I sat on a plane for 6 hours with no way to get any information, got there at midnight, had to stay up all night researching and figuring out what I was going to say. Go on. I was so nervous. I literally felt like I was going to throw up. I didn't sleep all night. And I remember afterwards calling my husband and saying, like, I think I did okay, but I'm never doing this again. It was miserable. And then the producer's like, that was great. Can you come back next month? And I'm like, sure. And then I was like, in it.
That is so cool. I love that.
But it's exciting. I mean, it's definitely exciting. Sometimes you get a little rush because you're just like, wow, like I did that. I went on this show, and thousands or millions of people saw me, and I gave, really great information. And then people say like, wow, I saw you, you looked great, and usually they do your hair and makeup when you're on TV. So that's why you look great. Yeah. But it is fun for me. It definitely is fun, but I can't do it all. And I say no now more times than I say yes. Because there's not enough hours in the day.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Like, in order to say yes to the right stuff, you have to be willing to say no to either people that want to pick your brain or to like opportunities that just aren't right. I mean, I got one today and I have to say no. I'm getting better at saying no, but it's still hard. I mean, don't you think? I mean, it's this part of you is like, oh, you want to help someone, but sometimes it's not a good fit.
Yeah. And sometimes it's something that I really want to do, but because of my family schedule, I just can't swing it, I mean, I can't, if I look at my schedule and, I've already been out, one evening this week and, missed helping the kids with the homework, or I've already made my husband do morning drop off, 2 mornings in a row. I'll just say, I'm so sorry I'm not available then, because I realize that, it is a give and take when you have a family. And I know earlier you mentioned that work-life balance. I kind of like to call it work-life integration, because I feel like you're always integrating all parts and pieces all the time. And it can be challenging. Sometimes my kids say, Mom, you're always looking at your phone. I'm like, well, I'm on call. I'm texting and emailing patients back, and then I put it away. It's not like I'm, surfing Facebook. Very maybe once in a while, but not usually when I'm with my kids.
Very hard. Last question is around performance and sustained good performance rather than like peak and then we go down. So have you ever thought about that? Like, how do you consistently do well day in and day out? I mean, you've written 5 books, you've been on 72 TV shows, you're seeing 42 billion patients, you have 91 kids, you have 1 husband. How do you have that sustained performance? I mean, you have such great energy. What are you doing?
Well, thank you. I think you have to take care of yourself first. I mean, I don't always remember that, but for everybody, if you don't sleep, if you don't eat healthy, if you don't exercise, you don't spend a little time to relax, you will get sick and you will crash. And it took me a while to learn that, because as a resident at UCLA, we would work 3 days in a row nonstop, right? 24/7, because that was before they limited the number of hours that doctors could work in a row. And as I'm getting older now, I realize like, wow, I do need some downtime to take care of myself. And that's why I hired a new associate a year ago, Dr. Tiffany Fishman, who my patients love. So that way, when I am at a conference or if I have something important with my kids, she can be on call for me, and that gives me a little bit of a break. But it can be exhausting, and sometimes you can't be there for everybody, and you just have to be honest with them. But I do, with everything that I do, my patients come first, because their health comes first, and that's why I'm really, primarily a pediatrician, and I will drop anything if my patients are sick, and run to them.
I know. That's amazing. It's been great to have you on. Where can people go to get more information about you, whether it's your wellness center or just you in general?
Sure. So I have two websites. One is drtanya.com, drtanya.com. And that's my books, my media, my blog. And then I also have my office, which is calabasaspedswellness.com or calabasaspeeds.com. And they have information about my practice, pricing, all the different specialists here and everything that, we do to help you raise healthy, well-adjusted, successful kids.
I love it. Calabasas Peds, P-E-D.
PEDS.
PEDS.
Yes, Calabasas Pediatrics, somebody bought before me and they tried to sell it to me for a lot of money. And after talking to a lot of different specialists, I realized I don't need it from them. I can do it with calabasaspeeds.com.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you for coming on. It's been great to have you.
Thank you so much, Justin. Bye.
Have a question? Want to get in touch with us? Need some help and advice with your finances? Just go to coolmoneyshow.com and reach out to us. That's coolmoneyshow.com.
Krane Financial Solutions is an SEC-registered investment advisor. However, such registration does not imply a certain level of skill or training, and no inference to the contrary should be made. A copy of our current written disclosure statement discussing our advisory services and fees is available upon request. Information contained herein is for informational and illustrative purposes only and general in nature. It should not be considered specific financial planning or investment advice, or a recommendation to buy or sell any type of securities or other investment products. No investment decision should be made based solely on any information provided herein. We do not provide legal, accounting, or tax services. We recommend that all investors seek out the services of competent professionals in any of the aforementioned areas. Certain information provided has been obtained from third-party sources that we believe reliable. However, it's not been independently verified and is not guaranteed.